Imagine finding a safe filled with cash, wide open, with no one around. What would you do? In this story, a millionaire sets a trap to test his maid's honesty, but what happens next will leave you speechless and maybe even in tears. Elliot Grayson lived in a mansion that gleamed under the California sun, its marble floors echoing with every step, the air carrying the faint scent of polished wood and fresh roses from the garden. He was 62, a tech mogul who'd built a fortune from nothing, but his heart felt as empty as the sprawling rooms around him. Years of betrayal, business partners, friends, even family had left him cynical, convinced that people only cared about his wealth. His only constant was Maria, his maid of 5 years, a woman whose warm smile and quiet diligence seemed too good to be true. Maria, 38, moved through the mansion with a soft hum, her hands calloused from years of work, her dark eyes carrying a depth that hinted at a life of struggle. She'd come to the US from Mexico a decade ago, working tirelessly to support her teenage daughter, Sophia, who dreamed of becoming a doctor. Maria's days began at dawn, cleaning houses, scrubbing floors, and saving every penny for Sophia's future. In Elliot's home, she polished a grand piano no one played, dusted shelves lined with books no one read, and always left a small vase of wildflowers on the kitchen counter, a touch of warmth in a cold, perfect space. Elliot watched her from afar, his sharp eyes narrowing. "She's too kind," he muttered to himself one evening, sipping whiskey by the fireplace, the crackle of logs filling the silence. "No one's that kind unless they want something." He'd been burned before, employees who'd stolen, friends who'd schemed. So, he devised a test. He'd leave his safe open, stuffed with $50,000 in cash, right in his study where Maria cleaned every day. Hidden cameras would catch everything. If she took even a single bill, he'd have proof she was like everyone else. If she didn't, well, he wasn't sure he'd believe it. The next morning, the safe stood ajar, stacks of crisp bills glinting under the study's chandelier. The room smelled of old leather and ink, with sunlight streaming through tall windows, casting shadows. Across the oak desk, Maria entered, her vacuum humming softly, unaware of the trap. She dusted the shelves, her movements careful, almost reverent, as if the house deserved her respect. Then she saw the safe, its door wide open, money spilling onto the floor. Like a careless afterthought, her breath caught. She froze, the duster trembling in her hand. Can you imagine that moment? Your heart pounding, knowing one choice could change everything. Maria glanced around, her eyes wide, then stepped closer. The camera zoomed in, capturing her hesitation, the way her fingers twitched as if fighting an invisible pull. She knelt, picking up a fallen stack of bills, her hands shaking. Elliot, watching from his office on a live feed, leaned forward, his jaw tight. "Here it comes," he whispered, but Maria didn't pocket the money. Instead, she carefully placed the bills back inside the safe, her touch gentle, as if handling something sacred. She shut the door, the lock clicking softly, and continued cleaning, her hum returning, though quieter now. Elliot stared at the screen, his whiskey glass forgotten. "Why didn't she take it?" he muttered, his voice cracking. Days passed, and Elliot couldn't shake the image of Maria's choice. He watched the footage again and again, searching for a hint of deceit, but found none. Doubt gnawed at him. Maybe she knew about the cameras. Maybe she was playing the long game. So, he upped the stakes. He left an envelope on the kitchen counter labeled bonus, filled with $10,000. No note. No explanation. He wanted to see if she'd keep it, assuming it was hers. Maria found the envelope that afternoon, the kitchen smelling of lemon cleaner and fresh herbs from the garden. She opened it, her eyes widening at the cash. "Dios amo," she whispered, crossing herself. She looked around, as if expecting Elliot to appear, then set the envelope back down untouched. That evening, she knocked on his study door, her voice steady but soft. "Mr. Grayson, I found this in the kitchen. It says bonus, but I didn't know if it was a mistake." Elliot's heart stuttered. He stared at her, the envelope in her hand, her face open and honest. "It's yours," he said gruffly, testing her further. "Take it." Maria shook her head, a small smile tugging at her lips. I didn't earn this, sir. I can't take what's not mine. She placed the envelope on his desk and left, her footsteps fading down the hall. That night, Elliot couldn't sleep. The mansion felt colder, the silence heavier. He wandered to the kitchen where Maria's wildflowers sat in their vase, their delicate petals a stark contrast to the sterile granite counters. He realized he'd never thanked her for them. He'd never asked about her life, her dreams. Guilt twisted in his chest, sharp and unfamiliar. The next morning, he called Maria into his study. She stood nervously, wiping her hands on her apron, the scent of lavender soap clinging to her. Maria, he began, his voice softer than he intended. Why didn't you take the money? The safe, the envelope, any of it? Her eyes met his, steady and clear. Because it's not mine, Mr. Grayson. I work for what I have. My daughter, Sophia, she's watching me. I want her to know there's dignity in doing what's right, even when it's hard. Elliot's throat tightened. He saw it then, the weight she carried, the love behind her choices. Tell me about Sophia, he said, surprising himself. Maria's face lit up, her voice warm as she spoke of her daughter's late-night study sessions, her dream of saving lives, the scholarship she was chasing but hadn't won. Elliot listened, really listened, for the first time. And then, the unexpected turn came, not just for him, but for everyone watching this story unfold. I want to help, Elliot said, his voice firm. I'm setting up a trust for Sophia's education. Full ride, wherever she wants to go. Maria's hand flew to her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. Mr. Grayson, why? Because you reminded me what kindness looks like, he said, his own eyes glistening. And I haven't seen it in a long time, but the story doesn't end there. Maria, still reeling, made a choice of her own. She asked Elliot to join her and Sophia for dinner at their small apartment, a place filled with the aroma of homemade tamales and the sound of Sophia's laughter. Elliot, who hadn't shared a meal with anyone in years, said yes. That night, surrounded by flickering candles and the warmth of their home, he felt something he hadn't in decades: connection. And then came another act of kindness, one that sealed the story's heart. Sophia, inspired by her mother's integrity and Elliot's generosity, started a community fund with her scholarship money, helping other kids in their neighborhood chase their dreams. If we lift each other up, she told Elliot, her young voice fierce, there's no limit to what we can do. The climax came months later, when Elliot attended Sophia's high school graduation, the crowd cheering as she walked across the stage, accepted to Stanford's pre-med program. Maria stood beside him, her hand squeezing his arm, tears in both their eyes. The mansion no longer felt empty. The wildflowers on the counter bloomed brighter, and Elliot, once hardened by distrust, found himself smiling, truly smiling, for the first time in years. Can you feel the hope in that moment? The way kindness rippled outward, changing not just one life, but many. This story isn't just about a millionaire and his maid, it's about how a single choice, a single act of goodness, can spark a chain reaction of hope. So, what's your story? Have you ever seen kindness change someone's life? Share it in the comments below, we'd love to hear it. And if this story touched you, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next tale of hope and humanity. Want a hint about what's coming? It's a story about a stranger, a storm, and a decision that saved a family. You won't want to miss it.